talking today about the negative numbers. Negative numbers. And just for your own personal benefit, when we put the positive numbers with the negative numbers, we get what we call the integers. It's always good just to throw some stuff in there. So the integers look a little like this. I think we've done this before. By the way, integers are only whole numbers. We don't have to worry about fractions or decimals here. We're pretty familiar with the number line on the positive side. But you have to remember that there's also the number line goes the other direction, and that is where the negative numbers come from. -4, and it goes forever that way. So there's an equal amount of negative numbers as there are positive numbers. And what you have to kind of remember, these are the positive numbers. These are the negative numbers. And you have to remember that when you think about negative numbers, you kind of got to think a little bit backwards. Okay? When you talk about which one is bigger than the other. If I asked you what's bigger, 1 or 5, you would tell me, Brooklyn, that what is bigger? 5. Or if I asked you what's bigger, 1 or 3, Brooklyn, you would tell me 3. And the rule is this: any number, here's the number 1, any number to the right of it is going to be bigger than it. 2 is bigger than 1, 3, 4, 5, and forever that way. That is the same thing with integers or negative numbers. If I have a -2 and I'm comparing that to another number, any number that is to the right of -2 on the number line is going to be bigger than it, including -1. A lot of times we think since in normal numbers 2 is bigger than 1. Okay? In this case, -1 is bigger than 2 because it falls to the right of it. Okay? And a good way to think about negative numbers is I always like to think about money. Negative numbers are like money that you owe somebody. And is it better, do you actually have more money if you owe somebody $2 or only owe them $1? You really have more money. You know, I could have this -750 seems like a pretty big number, but actually it's a pretty small number. What's bigger, -750 or 0? Well, -750 is way over here in the number line. 0 is way to the right of that. 0 will be bigger than any negative number. Okay, if you owed somebody 750 or 0, which one would you rather be? Well, nothing rather than -750. And they also talk about, with negative numbers, we talk about opposites. By the way, number 1, is that positive or negative? Neither. Nope, it's neither positive nor negative. 1 is not neither positive nor negative. And then we talk about opposite numbers. This is a pretty simple sort of thing. Opposite just means it falls opposite on the number line. So if we were talking about what the opposite of 2 is, well, that would mean this. Since 2 is 2 places this way, opposite of that would be 2 places this way, and it would be -2. So opposite just means if it's positive, it's negative, it's positive. Does that make any sense? What is the opposite of -8? If -8 is 8 this way, what's 8 units that way? 8. So the opposite of -8 is 8. The opposite of -500 is?
500.
Positive 500. The opposite of -4?
4.
Opposite of positive 22?
-22.
Oh, let's see what else there is. Take a look in your books on page 75, please. is a little demonstration here, for something for you to think a little bit. And they'll talk about this. Look at a practice letter K. The desert floor was 186 feet below sea level. Use a negative number to indicate that elevation. Well, that means this. You know, we talk about sea level all the time. What is sea level? That's where water is. Well, some places are below sea level, which means they're down here. Now, if sea level we usually consider to be 0, so just like when the temperature drops below 0, okay, if you go down here, how far did it say? 186 feet? What number would you use to show this, or what integer you would put, Riley?
Negative 186.
Negative 100, what is it, 68? Negative what? 186?
Yeah.
Negative 186. A little like when we talk about temperature. You know, we have 0 degrees, and that's pretty cold. What happens when it gets below 0? When you go by a bank and it's below 0, what do they show? A negative number. Negative 10 degrees. Okay. That's an opposite there. Well, that's not bad. Oh, here's a good one. How about this? This will fill, oh boy, what was that? Question number, letter E. Well, maybe we should do this here. What number is 5 less than 0? What number is 5 less than 0? And you have to be careful with this, because right away when people read that problem, they just say 5, because they're thinking it said, what is 5 minus 0? 5 minus 0, yes, in fact, is 5. But that's not what that says. This says, what number is 5 less than 0? That says 0 minus 5. Which, before in your mathematical world, you said we can't do that. Well, with negative integers, you can do that. If you look on a number line, here's how subtraction works. Here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, if we do the top one, 5, if I start at 5 and I subtract nothing from it, I stay right there. If I start at 0 and subtract 5 from it, I go backwards 5 places. Well, backwards 1 place is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Maybe this will help. What about, what's 8 minus 5? 8 minus 5 is 3. If I reverse that and say, okay, if I have 5 and I take 8 away, if I have 5 and I come back 8 places, what's my answer, Isabel? Negative 3. So you have to be very careful when you look at those things and make sure you're subtracting the right one from the right one, because now in your 6th grade world, you know, not always does the bigger number get subtracted by the smaller number. Sometimes it gets worked around. You think you get that? Here, check this out. So if I asked you, well, if I asked you what 530, if I asked you what 53 minus 18 was, you probably could do that and tell me that the answer to that is, and do that in your head. Just take my word for it, it's 35. But what if I asked you what 18 minus 53 is? Shouldn't be too tough, Emily. Minus 35. 100 minus 10 is 90. 10 minus 100 is negative 90. You're taking a big thing away from something that is. you have $10 and you borrow $100 from somebody, you're gonna have to give them the $10 and you still are going to owe them. That's neither here nor there. We should stop now while we're still